Hello and welcome to this video. My name is Marco Nuyen and I'm a trainer at Microsoft. This video is part of a series of videos about the role of a Microsoft cybersecurity architect. In this video, we will focus on aspects of compliance and privacy. We explore the dynamic tension between compliance and security and discover the essential tools and services that help cybersecurity architects strike the right balance in today's digital landscape. The content of this video is mostly aligned with the area of security operations, identity and compliance from a certification perspective. Now, question: what is compliance? What is privacy? I hope after this video you will answer these two main questions for yourselves. What is compliance and what is privacy? And of course, where do they fit in our role as a cybersecurity architect? Before we get started, I'd like you to consider another question. Are compliance and security the same? Yes, they are the same. We are compliant, so we're also secure. And yes, if we are secure, we're also compliant. Or no, they are different. What do you think? They are different, right? And you can be very compliant and very unsecure. Or you can be very secure and very incompliant. So for this answer, C fits best. So let's go and talk about what is compliance. We want to inspect what compliance is, where to encounter it, and what our options are for helping our organizations to be and stay compliant, next to being and staying secure. We also need to think about privacy, since security, compliance and privacy are often closely related. So what are our options? Let's first zoom out a bit and link it to an overview of concepts and materials like the Microsoft Cybersecurity Reference Architecture. Here's a busy graphic from the MCRA, and I've highlighted a couple of aspects that are linked to the topic of compliance. Elements like Compliance Manager, Communications Compliance, and the Service Trust Portal. These are Microsoft services or portfolio products that can assist with compliance. But what is compliance? Our organizations do not operate in a vacuum. They are often in a certain industry or in a certain region or country. With that, there will be requirements that we will need to meet. If we meet the requirement, we comply. If not, well, then there can be consequences. It could be that you are not allowed to operate if you don't meet what is needed, the compliance elements that are needed in an industry or region. Compliance is something that needs to be met. It's a non-negotiable. Now, security is not per se a compliance topic, but we will often work closely with compliance to make sure our organization meets what is required. In the field, many of my customers have compliance specialists, architects, or even an entire compliance department. If that is the case for your situation, then work closely together with the compliance experts. If not, then start reading up on compliance, since no organization exists that does not need to meet some compliance standard. Let us start with some regulatory compliance elements. These are all about laws or industry-specific requirements, things that are enforced on us by an external party. There is, of course, also internal compliance that we also need to think of. The rules that have been set within the company itself. And how can we prove that we comply? We typically need to gather evidence and have that evaluated. That is what we would call the compliance journey. Essentially, we are gathering evidence that can be used towards another party, like an auditor, to get proof of the fact that we are in a compliant state, a compliance statement. But only a certified party can validate if we have done what is needed to be compliant. In other words, most often your organization will need to engage with an external auditor that will evaluate and, if okay, issue you a compliance statement. That's the only way to prove that you are compliant. And it is a continuous process. A compliance statement has an end date, and if you want to be able to prove that you are compliant, you must get another compliance statement. It's a continuous process. In the middle of the presentation, I've included some information about the division of responsibilities, cloud providers, and you, our organization. The cloud provider provides platforms and services on top of which you do something. For compliance, a challenge is how you can collect evidence towards an auditing party that the platforms and services are compliant. You typically do not have access to part that is managed and maintained by the cloud provider. A way to address this is to leverage the cloud provider's compliance information as evidence towards your own auditors, and more on that in a moment. But what is crucial to understand is that you are not compliant if the platform has compliance statements. When I was working with customers, I often encountered people that said, "We are compliant because we are using a compliant component." Not true, no. You will be configuring something on top of that, on top of a capability for which a compliance statement exists, for something a compliance statement is available. And when you do that, together with the evidence from the platform, it is what you use to get your compliance statement from a trusted party. And you need to do this regularly if you want to stay compliant. Here are a couple of very common compliance regulations. There are many, many more. I just wanted to list a couple of examples, like HIPAA, healthcare-oriented, United States-based, the payment card industries, PCI. Maybe you should also think about the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark, the MCSB, where we actually encounter elements from PCI DSS compliance next to elements of CIS and NIST. Personal data and GDPR. These two are already a bit in the area that is something we want to discuss later in this video, which is privacy. GDPR is all about citizens being able to control their data and their information anywhere. The right to forget, the right to insight, the right to correct, the right on portability, things that are connected to the rights of EU citizens, the rights that EU citizens have over their data, wherever that may be stored. They can come and request, including asking your organization for their data. And after GDPR became into existence and became into effect, and we've seen many other similar compliance frameworks like that worldwide. So what we can do, what can we do to get started? A good starting place to get more informed on compliance, regulatory standards and other related areas is the Microsoft compliance site. I've listed an easy short link for accessing that on the presentation graphic, aka.ms/compliance. From there you can find information about, for example, Azure, Dynamics 365 and Microsoft 365 compliance offerings. It is the place where we bring all the Microsoft compliance information together. Start with compliance and reading about it from this portal, and please share the link. I've encountered many people that did not know it existed and they found it to be very useful, so use it and share it. Here's an example of Azure, Dynamics 365 and Microsoft 365 compliance offerings that can help you with national, regional and industry-specific regulations for data collection and use. For each element mentioned here, there are pages that describe the compliance framework and how and what relates to it in the services and products provided by Microsoft. It is this kind of portal and information that can help our compliance colleagues with their job and help us to understand their job better. Remember, right? Security is a team sport. We work with many others, and one of those others can be people that are specifically responsible for compliance. But it could be that your organization is different and that you are responsible for cybersecurity and compliance. Every organization is different. Some are large, with different people on different teams. Some are smaller. It all depends. But whatever it is for you, compliance needs to get done, like it or not. It's a non-negotiable. And to start doing it, start using another resource, the Service Trust Portal. Again, a short link is listed to help you to get access to that easily, aka.ms/Service Trust. The Service Trust Portal caters to organizations, IT professionals, and anyone interested in understanding how Microsoft assures security and compliance across its cloud offerings. It acts as a one-stop shop for accessing essential details about security practices, compliance certification, and privacy measures within the Microsoft Cloud ecosystem. It provides in-depth information and tools related to various Microsoft services, including Azure, Microsoft 365, and Dynamics 365. And Windows. It is also the place where you, as a customer, can download compliance statements. The statements you can use towards your own auditors in your compliance journey. The platform and service provide evidence of meeting some compliance requirements, but you also need to provide your own evidence of the additional steps you took from the point of view of the framework you need to follow. Mind you, it is for customers of Microsoft. Before being able to download evidence from this portal, you need to log in with an account associated with an Enter tenant. Now, we can't ignore what needs to be done from a compliance perspective, and we should include it in our designs just as any other requirement for our solution and design. It should be part of it. We must figure out what they mean, what's the risk, what are the things we must do, what are the things we're trying to achieve, and how are we going to do it, and make it something we can work on. And we must explain the why, the what, and the how, the rules and the guidelines. From a practical point of view, start writing these down and come up with a minimal viable product, test it out, learning from that and making changes to our designs to deliver a better solution. For example, consider data retention. Legally, financial transaction records between a stockbroker and a client must be preserved for 5 years. That could be an example. Translating these requirements into a technical solution involves using classifiers to identify relevant data patterns, then applying the rules to ensure the data is retained for the mandated period and providing documentation as evidence of compliance. This approach encourages careful consideration of system governance and oversight. How to address compliance? Well, we've learned what compliance means and how it relates to our work. But how can we monitor and evaluate compliance in our environments? How can we quantify compliance in our environments? And one of the rules for a cybersecurity architect is also to assess, is it set up correctly? What are the areas for improvement, etc.? And in our toolkit, the main option I want you to think about when it comes to understanding compliance is Purview. Another option could be Defender for Cloud. On the presentation, we currently see an example of Microsoft Purview, a specific part of Purview, namely Purview Compliance Manager. Purview is the group of products and services that focus on data, governance, and compliance. For this video, I wanted to limit ourselves to the compliance aspects of Purview, the parts of Purview that can assist you with compliance. With Purview Compliance Manager, you can add compliance frameworks to the engine and then assess how well the elements of that added framework are implemented in your environment. If there's a match, you earn points. So the more that is done, the more points, the higher the score. It helps to understand what was done and the evidence of that, and what still needs to be addressed. In essence, this is how scores work throughout the services, and we have another video just on scores and how to use them. Compliance score is not any different. You can use Purview Compliance Manager to choose from a list of predefined assessments for common industry and regional standards and regulations, or create your own custom assessments to meet your unique compliance needs. The available assessments depend on your licensing agreement with Microsoft. Complete your risk assessments efficiently through a single tool that collects and analyzes evidence from your data sources and services. You can also upload your own evidence documents to support your assessment. It helps to simplify your compliance journey. Comply with the standards and regulations that are most relevant for your organization. For actions that are managed by Microsoft, such as encrypting data at rest or in transit, you can see implementation details and audit results. For actions that are managed by you, such as training your employees or defining policies, you will be able to see recommendation best practices. Understand your compliance posture by measuring your progress in completing improvement actions. You can see your compliance score, which reflects how well you align with the requirement of each standard or regulation. You can also see the impact of each action on your score and prioritize the most important actions. Purview Compliance Manager is a powerful tool that originated from Microsoft 365 and has a strong focus on data and compliance. It simplifies many tasks when it comes to understanding and helping to meet compliance. Another capability that can help you with compliance, specifically for infrastructure as a service and platform as a service, is what we have in Azure, Azure Policy. Azure Policy allows to define and enforce policies that audit and control your resources in Azure. To help you comply with different standards and regulations, Azure Policy also provides built-in policy definitions that map to common compliance frameworks. You can assign these policies to your management groups, subscriptions, resource groups, or individual resources, and then monitor their compliance status from a single dashboard, either directly in Azure Policy or through Defender for Cloud, which includes Defender for Cloud regulatory compliance. Here we have an example of the compliance dashboard in Defender for Cloud. And this is part of Defender for Cloud security posture capabilities in Defender for Cloud. We will come to Defender for Cloud and cloud security posture management in another video. Just be aware that you can leverage it for driving compliance in your Azure deployments. Some compliance frameworks also include privacy elements, like GDPR that I mentioned earlier in this video. Under GDPR, any EU citizen can ask any company to exercise some rights. Ask for access, erasure, rectification, portability, among others. How can your organization handle these kinds of requests? The main difficulty is usually to search through all the data in the organization and find the relevant information as requested. This is hard, but there are some capabilities that can assist with that. Essentially, it's a question of data discovery, labeling, and management that we will revisit later in the series when we discuss data. Much of that is the area for the Purview family. But how can you handle privacy and privacy requests? From a capabilities perspective, that's the domain of the Preva family. The emphasis is on aspects such as privacy risk management and subject right requests. But that's not all. And there's always more. Besides handling requests from individuals, the capabilities can also help to address privacy and related risks, or to inform users about those. Find out if personal information, personal data is too exposed, so it can be protected by users themselves. They can monitor and restrict movement of personal data across units or geographical boundaries. And it can help users discover and decrease the amount of unused personal data that is kept by them. It helps to be mindful and act on it. Let's wrap up this video. The subject was compliance and privacy. I explained what they are and how they fit into our role as a cybersecurity architect. We also looked at the capabilities that will help to cover compliance and privacy aspects. For more information, please go and investigate the places, the links that were mentioned during the video. And here's a summary of short links for you. This is the end of this video. I hope you learned something, and please come again for another video in the series on cybersecurity architecture. Until next time, stay safe.